Alabama beats the number one team in the nation, but it takes 4 overtimes to do it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Slasher U. I'm your host, Christian Rao, here with my co-host, Steve Feck. And we're going to break down Alabama defeating North Carolina Tar Heels by the score of 103 to 101 in 4 overtimes. This game was electric. I mean, you just look at it right here on paper. You don't even have to get to the highlights. I recommend you do, but 4 overtimes in this one to solve this one. Bama goes to 6-1 after this game. UNC gets their second loss of the weekend. A huge hurt for UNC this weekend. They go from number 1 in the country all the way to 18, one spot behind Duke. It's a smack in the face, Steve. What's your thought about this game? And then obviously your thoughts about UNC dropping so low.
Yeah, well, I don't want to go cliche and start already. This was the game of the year because it's just way too early for that. We'll leave that for football things next year.
Until next day, right?
Exactly. But, I'm going to leave it to Alabama coach Nate Oates to sum up this game. That was a fun one. And it was a fun game to watch. In just an overtime, both teams could have dominated one of the overtimes, and the other team came back. And it was Alabama the second overtime. It was North Carolina the third overtime. But, all told, the Crimson Tide threw in a tidal wave of three-pointers. They had 16 all told. They had 7 by Mark Sears, who played just a terrific game. To give you an idea, I mean, how deep Alabama is proven to be, Javon Quinterly, he was a pest all game long. He contributed 21 points off the bench. Didn't even start. Came off the bench. Had 21 points. But the guy that really, for me, flew under the radar when you go back and you look at all the recaps and everything, but having watched the game, I was really impressed with is their sophomore center, Charles Bediako. He had 14 points and 16 rebounds, but he seemed to be in the middle of things at crucial times, especially in overtime. He had a couple of really clutch layups inside, battling at the rim in overtime. He made a really, really big impact there. Caleb Love, anything that has Caleb Love is going to be okay.
He's going to be, when you look at Caleb Love's stats, I mean, he played 58 minutes in this game. Somehow didn't get fouled out. I know he had 4 throughout the game, but 34 points in this outing. He was the best player in this game, regardless of what side. Obviously, They didn't win the game, but Caleb Love was the MVP of this game. He is going to be so fun to watch the next level because it's happening. Like, you can see it blossoming in front of your eyes. This guy, how amazing he is. 13 for 36. He took 36 shots, but every single one of those shots, for the most part, were very good, high percentage shots. Really looked good. Found some good openings. UNC, I know, obviously had a rough weekend. They lost 2 in a row, but with Nance, how he's looked so far this year, with Biscott, who's been a fantastic big man as well, and then obviously Caleb Love, those 3 alone keep you in the thick of it throughout the season until you get to March.
Yeah, and we talked about how North Carolina dropped in the rankings. To a degree, I kind of like that trend so far this year when hot teams really rise up quickly. We were talking about off the air about Virginia rising up to number 3. Because it shows that, the voters are actually paying attention to what's happening on the court this year and not reminiscing about what happened in years past.
Very good point.
So I kind of like what's going on early. You don't always see that. Also, that some of the teams that are struggling, and if you lose 2 games in a marquee tournament, you're struggling technically. By the letter of the law there, you can watch them and you can see, hey, you know what? It's going to be okay in the long run. I mean, and do you really care what your ranking is at Thanksgiving?
You don't care until the very end of the season if you're holding the national championship trophy or not. Let's be completely honest. Obviously, it's just something for us to have a good conversation about, the Associated Press to get some love and have the acronym AP float around social medias. Looking at the ACC Big Ten Challenge coming up for North Carolina, they got to take on Indiana. Indiana has not lost yet. This Indiana team looks very good. They're in the top 10 for a reason. We just spoke in another segment about the Big Ten, how they already have 3 undefeated teams still. 11 of the Big Ten teams only have 1 loss or none. This Big Ten conference is looking very good thus far. North Carolina, even though they had the preseason number one and they held on to it until this week, they truly haven't looked like a number one team, even with some of their wins early in the season. Close win against Gardner-Webb. The first win against Portland in the Invitational wasn't that impressive.
No,
and then
Portland played a good game. Yeah,
right. And then obviously the loss against Iowa State, and then this loss against Bama. Now, I don't want to put too much shade in the loss to Bama because it went to 4 overtimes, and Bama's a good team. North Carolina played great. That is exactly what you want. I mean, if you're leaving a tournament with a loss, that's the loss you want because you played very good. You had to play with your back against the wall with some foul trouble, both sides that you did against a really good ball club in Alabama. I think they're the best they've been all season, even though they got a loss in that game. I think that game against Alabama is the best we've seen the Tar Heels here all season. Now they head into Indiana on Wednesday night, 9:15 ESPN. ACC Big Ten Challenge. This is the biggest challenge. This is a gut check for North Carolina. They do not want to lose 3 in a row. We might see them head out of the rankings if that's not the case. I don't know if it's that close. However, at least worth bringing up the conversation. Indiana is a very good ball team. What's your thoughts on this one?
I want to see Indiana because I want to see what all the fuss is about. And when we were doing our previews, I kept saying, why is everybody loving so hard on Indiana, who hasn't had a winning record in the Big Ten since, I don't know. I'm sure they did it between when Bobby Knight left.
2015. I believe it's 2015. Last time they won the Big Ten. Is that when they had the winning record?
Yes. Okay. So I was exaggerating a little bit, but I mean, honestly, they've been irrelevant in the Big Ten as far as I'm concerned. I mean, sure, they do pretty well, pre-conference, but they've just never lived up to some of the hype that they've had, and they've had some really good teams, So I'm anxious to see them. I have to admit, this wasn't necessarily a game I originally had on my must-watch live, but now I have to watch this game live because of what I saw of North Carolina in this tournament, but also what everybody keeps saying about Indiana. I've somehow not seen a minute of an Indiana Hoosier basketball game, and I'm not proud of that. I've just found other games to follow. So I'm really curious about how that's going to play out. I think this ACC Big Ten Challenge is going to give us a lot of really good games. There's going to be some clunkers that might need a mercy rule, but for the most part, this, would you say, is this the premier matchup of the ACC Big Ten, or are you looking at Illinois? Who's Illinois playing?
You got Duke versus Michigan as well. I think this is probably the most marquee one, especially because this was the number one team in the country at one point. I would probably put that one in there because you got Maryland, Louisville, Syracuse, Illinois. Syracuse, Illinois might be a
Syracuse,
good one too.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
It's not Duke versus Michigan; it's Virginia versus Michigan. So, I would say I would still probably give the nod to North Carolina, Indiana, Michigan State, Notre Dame should be a good one, and it's Ohio State versus Duke. That's another good one as well. I think the only one that's going to be a complete blowout is Purdue over Florida State. However, I'm looking forward to UNC taking on Indiana in this one. Wednesday night, 9:15 ESPN. Make sure you check it out. Let us know your thoughts below. What do you think about North Carolina? You think that they deserve to get dropped so low, even below the Duke Blue Devils after their 2 losses this weekend? Are you worried about this team? Do you think they even deserve to be number one at all at the beginning of the season? Or do you think that bias from last season really came into play? What's your thoughts on the new AP Top 25? Houston sitting at the top. The whole top 5 is almost completely brand new. And then obviously Alabama, a really fun team so far in the SEC. Looks like they're making a lot of noise, and we're going to see what happens to them in that conference as well. Let us know all in the comments below. While you're there, hit like and subscribe. And thank you as always for watching SlasherU.